Hello guys, and welcome to another beginner tutorial. First of all, if you want to have a look at my work, just go on my website. And another thing, I published a new course, Form Design. It's a course about creating style frames with the amplified input to form project. But today what we want to create is this coal growth effect. It's really simple, and I think you can create some nice style frames with that. And it is a pretty simple process, and I think we can get started right away. We'll start with a simple circle. So this is basically the circle will be our foundation or our initial base shape or ground shape. And now we place down the circle. Let me just hide that. And we will toggle it to polygon. And you can now see here the division size is currently on 12. We need to higher that a little bit. So I will go usually for 256. I think that's a good division size. And now our circle is of course round, and it's perfect. So we want to introduce a little bit of imperfection. And what we can do here, we will create a polyframe. And with the polyframe we will direct our normals to the outside. So we'll create a polyframe, tangent name will be our normal. And we want to reverse them, so place down an attribute wrangle, and let's go reverse n for normal, and then just type in attribute wrangle, run our points, and then add n, so add the normals, equals minus add n, semicolon, and now you basically reversed the normals. Pretty simple. So after that we want to displace our circle with the normal direction. So what we will do, we will place on an attribute wap and call it create maybe noise, and we will dive inside here. So what we want to displace along normal node. We want the position into the position, the displaced position to the displaced to the exported position here. Then we can connect the normal and an amount, and the amount will be a noise. We'll pipe a noise in here, and now you can see we'll displace basically our circle, but only in the normal direction. And now you will get on a pretty imperfect shape, and now you can of course play around with the amplitude, with the offset, and so on. So try to find something that you like, for example this form here. What we want to do, we want to resample and remesh our shape. So let's get a resample node. Resample. What you can do, you can feed polygon as subdivision curves, so it will get a little bit smoother. Let's pump the length here down, so we will get a higher resolution. And after that you can remesh it, but you don't need to. But I will just remesh it a little bit. So iteration, let's get some smoothing. That's fine. So now we got our remeshed plane or mesh. So this is our starting geometry. So what we will do, we'll place down a null here, out. Maybe let's call that pop in, so our pop input, and we will create a pop network. Nope, not the poly patch. A pop network. Wire that into the first input. Let's go. I think it should already. Okay. Let's type here sim on pop. or PTS for particles or points, dive inside. And now what we want to do, we want to introduce some wind force and maybe some drag force or swirly axis force. So we can easily do that. We will go scatter on surface, but on birth we will disable the continuous activation and disable the continuous birth rate. And what we want to do, the impulse count, maybe, I don't know, maybe 250. And the impulse activation, we will type a little expression in there, $ff equals 1. So this is an expression to just emit points for the first frame. So we will now emit our points, but there will be no force, so we will place down a pop wind, for example. And we will activate that, so maybe 0.5 and a wind velocity of 0.25. And now it's basically trial and error, what you like, what you don't like. So it's more like a iterational process. What form do you like, what wind, what swirl size, swirl scale, pulse length, roughness, amplitude, and so on. So you can try that. So for example, I'm currently pretty satisfied with the pop wind. But what we can do now, we've got now of course the upward and the swirly direction, but I think it's a little bit too spread out, so I will introduce a little bit more wind. So we will get, yes, a little bit higher and not such a spreading out effect. And then we can enable a pop axis force. I'll pipe that in here. I will go with the radius and then let's just play that. And you can see we will get this axis effect, and of course you can now play with the suction speed and the orbit speed. Of course maybe that's way too high, so suction speed, let's dial it a little bit up, but just a little bit. I think that's not that bad, but I want to don't get such a high turning value, so we'll increase the wind velocity and decrease the orbit speed a little bit. And I think that's okay for now. So now what we can do, we will basically trail our lines. Place down a trail node here, and now we can trail them. So connect as polygon. Trail length, we will use again a simple expression, $fend. This is the timeline ending frame. Okay, now we can play. Okay, let's go wind, amplitude, and swirl size maybe 0.25. Let's have a look here. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Then what I want to do, I want to go for a little more smaller initial base. So what I can do, I can just scale here our base shape. Yeah, that's much better. Okay, cool. Nice. So now what we can do, we can resample our trail node. So placed on a resample node, and again you can go for subdivision curves to get a little bit more smoothness introduced, and toggle on the curve hue attribute, and we need a little bit more point density because we will go for a VDB meshing process. 0.05, I think that's fine for now. And I want to remap our our point scale. So p scale we will bind here, so we will import to the attribute WAP. We will import the curve view attribute, and we want to remap that, so ramp parameter. With the ramp parameter we will change the ramp type to from RGB color ramp to spline ramp, because we don't want to remap a color, we want to basically remap a value. So pipe that into the input here, and pipe that out by an export to the p scale. And I want to multiply it with an overall value parameter, so we got an overall scale. Nice. So let's get our ramp here. Let's turn our overall scale to 1 just for now, so we can get to the ramp back later. And a VDB from particles. Place that down, VDB from particles, activated. And of course, now we need a smaller voxel size, so for example 0.025 and a smaller point radius scale. 0.05 for now. It's looking not that bad. I will scale that down here a little bit and even scale down our point radius scale. And now what I want to do, I want to increase our resolution. And now we can play around with our ramp here. I will quickly change the interpolation to B-spline, and now we can play around. So for example, on the bottom I want the coral, or this growth basically, a little bit thicker. So you can see here, for example 2, or I will go for 1.5. Then I want them a little bit bigger, so 1.5 or maybe 2 in the middle, and then I want to thin them out a little bit, so maybe 0.5 in the end. I think that's looking not bad. Now we can do several things with VDBs. So for example, a VDB reshape. We can dilate them a little bit to get more thickness and more combined VDB surface, or we can erode it to erode basically the VDB away, and to get a little bit more roughness or surface imperfection introduced. But what I want to do, I want to dilate it a little bit, for example 0.5, and then you can VDB smooth it, so VDB smooth SDF, and after that you can convert it. So convert VDB, I want to convert to polygon, and now you can cache that out, of course. But what I want to do, I want to introduce a little bit more thickness in the end here. Nah, that's maybe too much. Yeah, I think that's better. So for example, a value of 0.75 will do the job here. And now you can just cache it out, for example. I did that here too. So a file node, file cache, and of course there will be Houdini 19 tutorials soon. So we will cache it out, so file cache growth, and now you can cache that out. After that there are several ways, and of course we want to do a little bit of shading. And what I really like with the VDB smooth, you will really get these like organic connections. Of course, what you also can do, you can pump that up really high, for example 15, and really smooth that thing out. I think that looks really cool and really organic too, in my opinion. But of course, that's fully up to you what smoothing iteration value you choose. Another thing what you can do is to smooth it with the normal smooth node after the conversion and you can go really crazy. So for example, if you do like a strength of 250, you can really extremely smooth that thing out, and you will get something like that. So you will get a really organic and also spiky looking form. So keep that in mind. We want to place down a material. Let's call it our matte. And we want to do a little bit of shading here. Let's delete the dome here. Geo coal growth. Nice. Okay, so we got that. Now we need, of course, a material network. So RS matte and a ROP network. RS out. So this will be our material network and this will be our render network. Let's dive in the render network here. Place a redshift node. I call that RS out 001. 01. I will enable GI here. Nice. And a material. RS material builder. RS matte. Let's link that here. And now on our slide dome, RS dome 01, and I will choose an HDRI map. And of course, now you can really start playing. You can make proxies out of this. You can build a background. You can build like a gallery, like a in a museum or something like that. What you also can do, you can build like a container or like a stand, like a podest. But what I want to do, I want to get like a detailed rendering. Let's place a camera here. So camera 001. And now it's of course fully up to you what you want to use, what you don't want to use. Let's go for 35 here. And bokeh image. Bokeh image, I got a tutorial on YouTube if you want to create your own. Okay, I think we got everything. We also linked our material, so we can now start to give it a first render here. And of course, for the material, you can go for a realistic shading, but you can also go, of course, fully on an abstract meta shading. That's of course fully up to you. So I want to disable here our background. And now of course what you can do, you can go for that aspect ratio, you can go for another aspect ratio. So let's just switch that. And I will go for longer focal length, so I can fit that nicely in here in our camera. Let's start the render view again. Let's go for so, and now of course you can start shading. Let's get the focus. And of course you can introduce a background, you can introduce a realistic or non-realistic environment. That's fully up here to you. One thing you can do, you can use the curvature, for example, in Redshift or in any other renderer or render engine, and you can play around with that, because I think curvature is really nice to play with. And what you can do, you can blend, for example, two or more materials. So for example, you can do something like that. So you will blend two materials with the curvature and then play around with the shading. Of course you can do it the other way around. You can do that and that. That's also fully up to you. So I hope you liked that beginner tutorial, and you can take something from it, and I will see you in the next one.